Hello there, Kristen here. And I'm coming to you with a full moon Reiki healing energy activation and healing experience. This is for the full moon in Pisces, which is happening in September of 2022. And this full moon in Pisces is definitely more of an inward spiral than many full moons are. Pisces is a water sign. It is the final sign in the kind of wheel of the year, in the zodiac kind of cycle, right? So in many ways, it is the most evolved, right? It has completed its cycle and is beginning to wrap up before beginning again, right? And being reborn into that fiery energy of Aries. So Pisces is associated with kind of deep waters, deep knowing, spiritual, wisdom, intuition, right? And so all of that is going to be coming alive for us during this time. Full moons tend to be a great time to do some releases, right? To let go. And so many of us are probably being invited, right, to let go of beliefs that are keeping us from tapping into our deep spiritual, intuitive knowing, right? We may be invited to release behaviors, actions, people, places, things, right, that are keeping us from really tuning in to ourselves, tapping into our source, power, essence, right? Pisces is also represented, right, by these two fish that are kind of like swimming forever in this cycle. And so Pisces can also be about this kind of like give and take, right? When I think of water, I just spent the last 2 weeks on the banks of the Atlantic, on the coast of the Atlantic, right? With the ocean ever flowing, with the waves ever rolling. And so when we think of this water energy, especially Pisces, right, there is this movement, right? This give and take, this release, this contraction, right? I think of it as like, even like how our bodies breathe, right? We expand on that inhale, we contract on that exhale. And so in many ways, this Piscean energy, right, is this energy of expansion and contraction, right? Yin and yang, right? This kind of oppositional forces that work together to create harmony, to create wholeness, right? And so when we are working with this energy, it's really important to remember that life is this like flowing, right? That life is movement, that energy is movement, that we are movement, that we are always constantly changing and growing. And so this water energy, right, invites us to release stagnation, right? Do not be stagnant, right? Because if anyone has ever experienced stagnant water, and I know I have down here in the bayou living in Louisiana, right, where there are so many still waters that bake and fester, right? Stagnant water is a prime breeding ground of yuckiness, right? It does not create the clear waters that we might want to inhabit, that we might want to nourish us, that we might want to bathe in. And so there's this invitation for movement, for growth, right? And again, because Pisces is the final sign in the zodiac, right, there is also this energy of completion, right? Where can we celebrate cycles that we've completed? Where can we really honor that we have completed certain cycles, let them end and begin again, right? I think in this Western society, it's really common to fear endings, right? We have TV shows that go for like 17 seasons, right? We think of death as this like bad thing that we need to avoid. We kind of go on stubbornly doing things in a certain way because we've always done it that way, even though that way doesn't work anymore. And so there is this invitation from this Pisces energy to embrace completion, right? To embrace that sometimes things naturally come to an end, and right on the other side of that, there is rebirth, right? Because Aries is that next sign in this zodiac cycle, right? It isn't an end, right? It's just a completion that allows a new beginning. It's a cycle that continues to complete itself. And so there might be some questions for you to ask in your own life, right? Where are behaviors or patterns, beliefs, friendships, jobs, living situations that are ready to be completed, right? Maybe we've been holding on to them for too long and we know that it's over. Maybe we've been scared to let go because it's so comfortable and familiar, right? That's okay, that's superhuman. And there's an invitation to begin again, right? To gracefully allow things to end so that we can step into bigger and better versions of our lives, right? It is too common in this world for us to stay stuck and in this kind of like settled, right? Like it's good enough, it's okay, right? And life, right? Source, power, essence, divinity, God, goddess, whatever you resonate with, right? Wants us to be living our biggest and best life, right? Like we incarnated in these bodies to live our biggest and best life, to feel as much pleasure and joy and abundance that we can feel in a lifetime. And so if there are places in your life that you're kind of like, well, it's okay, I don't like, those are places for you to examine, right? Maybe it's time to complete. Maybe it's time to wash it new, wash it and it becomes fresh, right? So again, we're having this Pisces full moon. There's a lot of other stuff going on in the skies, right? Everyone's talking about Mercury going retrograde, and I think it's Saturn is squaring Uranus, right? So there's a lot of tension as far as maybe communication goes, right? As far as pushing forward to kind of accomplish our goals. And so this Pisces full moon is really inviting us to slow down, tune in, take stock, nourish ourselves, complete what needs completing so that there's space for new growth, so there's space for newness, right? I also want to name that we're in September right now. So we're moving closer and closer to the fall equinox if we're in the northern hemisphere, or the spring equinox if we're in the southern hemisphere, this time of equal day and equal night, right? A tipping point when those of us here in the northern hemisphere will move closer and closer to winter, right? A time of deep renewal, a time of going within, a time where, at least right now in this harvest season in September leading into winter, for those of us in the northern hemisphere, right, it's a time for us to be gathering our resources, right, to be preparing ourselves, right, to be preparing ourselves for a time that is slower, a time that is more inward, right, that is a death cycle, so to speak, right? This renewal time. And so there's some invitations for us to really start to maybe make plans, right? To start thinking about what we might need to do to prepare ourselves for this winter cycle. And for folks in the southern hemisphere, right, it is that kind of taking stock of what is being reborn, right? It's this like maybe a pause moment before we bloom, right? Before we come forth into our biggest, right, version of ourselves, our most lush and juicy version of ourselves. And so for many of us, we are really being invited to cycle within, right, to take stock of what's working and to work with the energy of water, right? The energy of water is super purifying. The energy of water is really cleansing. It is softening. It is moving. And so I've said a lot here, and I want us to move into the kind of like Reiki healing activation of this this session here. And so I'm going to invite the Reiki to work with each of us, right? So if you are interested in receiving Reiki healing, Reiki is unconditionally loving, divine, spiritual life force energy that churns through all of us. It is charged to radiate at that highest vibration of love, of essence, of source, right? It flows to us from that highest high, that light, that cosmic loving source, right? Just open yourself to receive. Say, I claim this healing now. Say, I open to receive this healing now. Say, I'm open to receive this healing now. I receive this healing for myself. I receive this healing for my ancestors. I receive this healing for my past selves. I receive this healing for my loved ones, right? Claim this for yourself.